Welcome to the Inland Valley Storytellers monthly story swap meeting. I'm John St. Clair. I'm the leader of this group, and I am the Zoom host. And we have a small group. We have one person on Zoom, and we have one, two, three, four here in person. And Ron Chick is going to start us off.
The story came to mind simply because the name Tolstoy came up in a conversation with Rob. And I realized I hadn't told Rorschach's Land in so very long, based very loosely, and I mean very loosely, on a short story by Tolstoy called How Much Is Enough? Rorschach was out gathering his weekly allotment of wood in the forest when he heard the scream of a horse in agony. He hurried back toward the road, and there was a carriage that had pulled off of the road into the mud, with a noble on it, beating a poor horse with all of his might, trying to get it to pull out of the mess he had gotten it into. Rorschach had no use for nobles, but he hated to see a beast mistreated. And so he took the fragments of wood that were on his shoulders. He went forward, spread them in front of the wheel that was in the mud, got behind and pushed. And the wagon moved. It moved. It rolled forward. The noble didn't say anything, but out of the night came a heavy leather bag, furnished by the ground. It had grown dark. He picked it up, carried it along, got back to the house, and found that it was full of gold. His wife said, Rorschach, with this, perhaps the children could go to school. They might have a trade that doesn't require that they work for the... No, I shall have land of my own. Land, no one sells land, and this is not so much money that would be to bribe someone. I have a plan. The next day, in a borrowed, very nice outfit, he went out to what had been the Count's household. But the old little Count had died a few weeks before, and there, now the Countess was his young bride. Rorschach went to the back door, spoke to one of the servants. One of the servants said, well, maybe she'll see you. He went to her and said, Madam, you know that little piece of swamp with the rocky hill in the middle of it? I would like to buy it from you. You can't grow anything there. It's worthless land. Yes, but I have some gold and I will buy it from you. She was young and inexperienced in the ways of the nobility and agreed to sell that small piece of swamp with a hill of rocks in the middle. Rorschach kept working in the fields as required of him for his ability to stay alive. But every day after work, except when it was freezing cold, except when the winters were cold, he would go to the top of the rock mountain with hammer and chisel, and he would chip away at the hill and roll the stones down to the swampy ground. And as he cut into the side of the rock, the land below began to rise. And eventually, after several years of daily, weekly, extra labor, he had carved a niche out of the hillside sufficient to build a little home there. And enough of the land had risen that there was a place for a garden. And now other nobility, including the new husband of the Countess, were very upset. A peasant has a piece of land that is making money for him right in the middle of your fields. You should buy it back from him. But Rorschach was not interested in selling the land he owned. His children worked the fields with him. His wife worked the fields with him. The children started to go to school. Their lives improved steadily. Years went by. A Rashak was thinking about buying a horse when a horse trader came through. And the man said, Rashak, people are asking you to sell your land, but I have land of my own. I have heard that in the land of the Cossacks, a man with just trade goods, simple glass beads, and things that cost next to nothing, can purchase a tract of land from the Cossacks. Could this be true? I don't know, he thought, but the idea played with his mind. He did indeed get the horse, and he hired one of his workmen and said, I think we will take 2 horses and we should go. His wife said, what is this for? I have land of my own, but it is surrounded by people who do not want me. I want land of my own that we can live in free. And so they rode off, the 2. It took them many weeks to reach the great steppes, northern Russia. But they were going across this rough land when suddenly they were surrounded by racing horsemen. They rode around them in a great circle, and at a single word from one of them, they came to a stop. The spears and swords pointed. Their leader said, what brings you here? I have brought things to trade with you, sir. It is late. We will feed you tonight. We will look at your things in the morning. And so he told them about his life and the places where he'd been and the lands he'd traveled through. And they told him about the problems of being Cossacks in the wilds of the world and the things that were going on in it. And in the morning, when he spread his gear in front of him, their leader said, oh, Moshe, you have enough here for a day of land. Day of land. Tomorrow morning, see this here? Tomorrow morning, when the first ray of sunlight touches the rock at the top, you may set out in any direction you want to go. Travel as far as you want. Then whenever you're out of sight of where you just were, stop and dig a cairn to mark your course forward and either go another direction or keep going that direction. But you must be back with your spade at the top of that hill, touching that rock before the last ray of sunlight. But whatever you encircle is yours. He could barely sleep that. He ate the supplies they'd brought, but he didn't talk much to people. Land. I shall have land. I shall have land enough to have a real life for my children and children's children and children's children. Early the next morning, before even the rest of the Cossacks had gotten, he climbed the hill and stood next to the marker stone. Many of the Cossacks came out and watched as the sun came and when the first beam of sunlight. Their leader said, go. And so he headed on, straight ahead into the sunlight as it rose in the east. And when he got to where it wasn't exactly sure he would be able to see where he was, he stopped and he dug a cairn upward. And then he went a little further east before deciding, perhaps I should turn in a bit. And so he did. And he went and carved and put, dug and marked, going forward for at least half the day. Then he thought, maybe I should go backwards. Maybe I should cut back toward the hill. I can go past it if I get there too soon. Maybe I'll even encircle the hill. We'll see. And so he turned back. But as he was going along and digging and marking his spots, he came upon a place where there was a sudden opening, prairie. And he looked off of the stony edge and saw down below a stream running through swampy ground. And he thought, I know what to do with swampy land. And so he turned back the way he'd come a little ways where he could find a place to go across the rift and found it up and down the other side and came back out and was now getting later in the day and he was picking up his pace, going quicker as he could, thinking, I must get back to the hill. I must get back to the hill. I must get back to the hill. But it was late. And he was getting tired. He finally dug a last car and headed more directly toward where he was going. And people began to spot him and cheer for him. Come on, long shot, they got rock, long shot. He looked back. He could not see where his last car was. He stopped. He put the shovel in the ground, put his pat atop it, and began to run. He ran as hard as he had ever run in all of his many years of labor. He ran and ran and ran. The sun was beginning to set. He climbed up the hill. He reached forward, and just before the last flood, he touched the rock, and the people called, "Oh, Rashak, you have won a great tract of land." But Russia never moved. I left him there, my lady. I do not know if he wanted to go to the land that he earned, but I left him there, right next to the stone he touched last. Land, land, land. Would there ever have been enough land? I do not know, my lady. But at the end of the day, all he needed was a piece, 6 foot, 6 foot.
When I was a senior in high school, I took a world literature class, and we read that short story. Oh,
Yeah. Like I said, very loose interpretation.
it has the gist of it. Yeah. Okay. So, Nick, do you have a story for us?
Oddly enough, I do, and I was reminded of it by Ron's choice of story. You
Okay,
see,
let me turn this around so we can see you.
Evening, Nick.
hello.
See?
So, what happened was there during World War II, there came to be an interesting tradition that story collections were put together of all the Allied nations during World War II. And after World War II, this continued as the United Nations Association here in the US continued to occasionally put out individual stories or collections of stories. And so, as a kid, I had one of them, but as an adult, I acquired this one called Ride with the Sun. And this had the most amazing collection of stories because it had one story each from all of the nations that were technically part of the Allies or joined the United Nations in its first incarnation. But apparently, Russia said, wait, we're a collaboration of states, so we deserve to have more than one story. So there came to be one story from Russia, one story from the Ukraine, and one story from what's now called Belarus. And this is the story from Belarus that was put into the 1955 collection. Now, once in the days of the Tsar, there was a soldier who had served his time in the army and was retiring to head home. In those days, an enlistment in the Tsar's army was for 25 years. It was your career. But you were not paid so much. And being in the army, especially when there was no war going on, tended to eat up what little income you had because you were looking for something to entertain yourself, to keep yourself from going mad with simply being in the army for 25 years. And so it was that the soldier, when he went home, had the clothes that he was wearing and 3 loaves of bread. And that was all. As he walked along, he encountered a very old beggar by the side of the road who asked if there was anything that the soldier could do to help him, for he had no money and no food. Well, the soldier gave him one of the loaves of bread and continued on down the road as the man desperately ate. Miles later, he met a second man in a similar condition, and to him too he gave a loaf of bread. And the man was very thankful and set to eating that loaf of bread. Miles and miles later, he encountered yet a third man by the side of the road, and he started to break his loaf in half so that he would still have something to eat. But he thought to himself, I gave each of the other 2 men a whole loaf of bread. Is it right that I only give this man half a loaf of bread? And so he gave the third beggar a whole loaf of bread, leaving himself with none. Well, the beggar looked up to him and said, You have been kind and generous. Is there anything that I could do for you in return? And the soldier started to say, No, no, you just enjoy the bread and continue. And the man said, No, no. Appearances may not tell you the whole story. Let me see if I can give you a gift, or perhaps 2. And he pulled out of his pocket a deck of cards. These cards, he said, will bring you great luck. No matter how wonderful the gambler you play against with this deck of cards, you will win. And the soldier wasn't sure that that was really an honest or proper thing to do, but he accepted the cards anyway. And the man said, Oh, and I almost forgot. There's something else I can give you that might be better on a day-to-day basis. It's a knapsack. And this knapsack, it's special. If you see something that you must have, open the knapsack and say, Into the knapsack. And whoever or whatever it is will go into the knapsack and you'll carry it off. This way, you can earn a living, you can get food, you can do whatever you need. Well, the soldier didn't believe in either of these stories, but he thought, I'll try and see how it works out. Well, the next day, he realized he'd been walking for an entire day without eating any of the food he'd brought with him. And so he looked around, and above him, in the air, he saw 3 geese flying by. So he decided to give it a try. And he opened the knapsack and said, Into the knapsack. And the 3 geese dove down, and 1, 2, 3, into the knapsack they went. Well, this was amazing because each of the geese would have been more than enough to fill the knapsack, but they dove in and somehow they were all inside. So he closed the lid and went on his way. And he found an inn. And he said, I have an unusual deal for you, but I promise you will benefit from it. I have 3 geese. Now, if you will let me stay here for the night, I will give you a goose in payment. If you will cook one of the geese, that will be my dinner. And whatever I don't eat, you can eat or sell to other patrons. And the 3rd goose, well, that will be for your hospitality. Well, the innkeeper thought, 3 geese, 1 man's dinner and a place to stay for the night? Certainly. And so he opened the knapsack, and the geese, who were by this time very confused and a bit wobbly, came out of the sack, And the innkeeper was stunned that they were so big and the knapsack so small, but yes, he had them killed and cooked. So it was that on following days, the soldier found something to eat and got it into his knapsack and used it to barter with people up ahead. But finally, he came to a town. And in that town, there was something very odd. It looked like the ruins of a castle right outside the town. Why would there be the ruins of a castle next to a town that seemed otherwise healthy and prosperous? And he asked, and the innkeeper at that town said, well, that used to be the palace of the prince. He's living in a nice little house on the other side of town now, but something monstrous took over the castle. And we think it lives there still because no one who goes in there to try and rid the castle of whatever it is comes back. Well, said the soldier, I've been a soldier for 25 years and seen many horrible things. Perhaps I can find a way to help the prince. And so he went to the prince and explained that he wanted to try to free the castle from whatever it was that was causing the prince troubles. The soldier had little or nothing to lose, and this seemed like an interesting challenge. The prince tried to talk him out of it, saying, you'll be killed like the others I've sent. But the soldier said, no, no, no. I have tricks up my sleeve. I'll see if I can help you without getting killed. And so the prince said, on your own head be it. And the soldier went to the castle. He heard sounds from inside the doors of the castle, voices, arguing, bickering, some also singing and playing and dancing. It sounded like there was a party or something going on in there. So he peeked slowly around the edge of the door, and there were gambling tables set up and dancing and music. The only thing was, it wasn't people doing the gambling and singing and dancing. They looked like demons. And the soldier thought, I have it. I'll see if I can do this. And if it fails, the prince has lost a soldier who wasn't his. If it succeeds, I may get something and the prince may get something. So he pushed open the door just enough so that he could enter and walked in. A larger demon, sitting on the prince's old throne, looked over and saw, oh, look, it's a human being. Come, human, what do you want with us? We have entertainment here. There's music and dancing. There's even gambling at the tables. And the soldier said, I would like to try my luck at your gambling tables for money. Well, said the big demon, go right ahead. Okay, said the soldier. And as he walked over to the table, he pulled out his deck of cards. And they began playing for money, small stakes. The soldier hadn't earned much with his trick with the knapsack, but he had a little. As he won, the stakes got larger. Soon, instead of simply gambling for silver, they were gambling for gold. And after not too long, the soldier had won all of the coins that all of the gambling demons had with them. Well, said the soldier, I guess the game is over. And the large demon said, it certainly is. We're not going to allow you to keep those coins you've won. Well, said the soldier, on your own head be it. And he opened the knapsack and said, into the sack. And one by one, all of the demons, including the large one, jumped into the sack. and he closed it and carried the knapsack off back to the home of the prince. When he reached the home of the prince, he said, "This is going to be difficult for you to believe, but there were demons in your castle, and now they're in my knapsack." There was a stunned silence because, first off, nobody had looked to see if there were demons because everybody who had gone in had gotten apparently killed. And the idea that they were in the knapsack, "Watch," said the soldier. He put the knapsack on the ground and picked up a piece of wood, something he could use as a cudgel. And he hit the knapsack, and the knapsack said, "Ow!" "You see," he said, "they're in there. Bap, bap, bap. Ow, ow, ow." Well, soon he found the spot that seemed to be hitting the big demon, the one who was in charge. And he began hitting that extra hard. "Ow, ow, ow." And the soldier stopped and said, "If I stop hitting you and let you out, you must swear to leave this land entirely and not bother its people again." Well, the demon started to argue, and he started to hit the demon again. And at last, the big demon said, "All right, we will leave." And so, under the guard of the prince's remaining soldiers, and under the guard of a priest holding a cross near the opening of the knapsack, the demons came out one by one and filed out and were never seen in that land again. "Well," said the soldier, "that seems to be something that worked out well, don't you think?" And the prince said, "You did a wonderful job of helping me. Now, I understand that you have retired from your service to the Tsar, but would you be willing to be one of my helpers here and do things for me? Because you solved the problem of the palace, and I need help. I lost many of my soldiers and many of my servants over the last 7 years as casualties to the demons, as it turns out." And the soldier said, "Pay me a fair salary, and I will be happy to work for you." And so it was that he helped the prince for some time. Well, he earned other things by the use of his cards and his knapsack. But one of the things that he earned while working for the prince was, in English, you would call it a monocle. And this was a special monocle because this one allowed him to see death. And so he was helping doctors for the prince. He could see whether someone was about to die because he quickly learned that death could see him watching, and they became acquainted and had discussions. And death said, "I will tell you when someone is about to die by where I stand. If I stand near the foot of the bed, they are merely in danger. If I stand at the head of the bed, they are going to die, and nothing you can do to prevent that." So it was that he was able to tell the prince and the doctors when someone was so seriously ill that there was nothing that could be done for them. But also he seemed to be able to accurately predict when someone could be cured. And by watching where death moved, he could tell if the doctor was making them better or worse. The prince thought that was absolutely wonderful. So it came time when the prince himself was very ill. And he thought, "My servant has helped many others under my rule. He can tell me whether I'm to live or die and what the doctors can do to save me." And so the soldier came in and looked at the prince lying in bed, and there he saw death at the head of the bed. And he tried to explain to the prince, Your Majesty, you are too sick. The doctors may not be able to save you at all. Let me try what I can. And so he began talking to no one there, as if there was someone standing by the head of the bed. And he said, I know that you show that my prince is dying. Is there any way that I could make a trade and give him my lifespan and take his? Well, Death whittled by that offer. No one ever offered to die voluntarily like that, but nodded and moved to the foot of the bed. And that was when the soldier pulled out his knapsack and said, Death, into my knapsack. And so Death disappeared into the knapsack, but the prince was cured. Now, the soldier hadn't really thought this all the way through because he was a simple soldier, and it hadn't occurred to him that death being in his knapsack meant death was nowhere else. And so it was that people stopped dying, animals stopped dying. And this caused great harm to those who were so sick that they could do nothing but die, and yet they continued. Things were like that for weeks, months, nearly a year before the soldier stumbled across a very old woman on the road just outside of the town. And he said, Where are you going? I'm looking for Death, for he is missing. No one has died in my village. Even the animals have lived beyond their span, and it is creating great hardship for those like myself who are in pain but cannot die. And the soldier realized that he had done something terrible and selfish, which he had never meant to do. And so he opened his knapsack and said, Death, please come out and resume your job. And the old woman thought the soldier had gone mad and wandered off down the road, but she didn't get far, for as soon as Death came out, Death looked at her and pitied her, and she fell never to rise again. But he looked at the soldier and said, I will resume my job, but your punishment is simple. I will not touch you. You will not die by my hand. And Death vanished, and he never saw Death through the monocle again. But he got older and older and older and older. And eventually, the soldier was very old, but saw no way to die. And so he thought, well, if Death won't take me anywhere, I guess I'll have to walk there myself. And so he began looking for the places that people go when they die. Eventually, he walked all the way to the gates of heaven. And there he was turned away, for the harm that he had caused by imprisoning Death was too great for him to enter the gates. And sadly, he walked away. And another eventually later, he found the gates of hell. And the demons who saw him coming shut the gates as hard as they could and bolted them. And the great demon that he had met once before said, "Oh no, you will not enter here." And so it was that the soldier was barred from death and from heaven and from hell. And so he walks and walks to this day, ever so old, but never dying.
Wow. What's the title of that?
Um, the title. That's a good question. I didn't memorize the title. Um, this was The Soldier and the Knapsack was the title that it was translated for this collection, but I think there was probably another title in Belarusian.
Yeah. Wow. Two very heavy stories. Yes, those Russian tales tend to be dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird because the ones I like out of the Russian folk tales tend to be that way. They just don't have stories that are both cheery and good. I
Well,
think they're just better. I think they're just
my,
better at doing dark stories.
my Russian folktale does have a happy ending.
Oh, some of them have happy endings if you don't count the body count.
Yeah. Oh, my Russian folk, it's called A Portrait for the Tsar. Oh, right. Well, I don't have a story tonight. Do you, Barbara? No. I'm I'm zonkered.
Yeah.
Thank you for even being here and providing the Zoom. Thanks for coming so long way.
Yeah, and sharing the story.
Of course.
So next Saturday is the Southern California Story Swap Festival
Yes.
at the same place that we just had our spring concert.
I hope somebody's showing up. I mean, honestly, I have no idea. A, guys, I love David Whiting. I do. He's a magnificent human being, a wonderful storyteller. He would give you the shirt off his back. But he is the most disorganized human being I have ever been around. And so I have very carefully stayed away from trying to do anything with the group besides show up and tell. But I don't know that this particular event has gotten off its ground, whether there'll be any groups coming, how many are going to show up. And we've already paid for the use of the room. So the economics of this could be disastrous. I just don't know what to do about it.
Fortunately, the Friends meeting does not charge a lot of money for the use of the facility.
Also, they've gotten a few things organized this year. Because John was telling me that Adrian is doing one of the workshops for it this year, if she's back to being healthy by next week.
Well, I heard from Adrian.
Yes.
She sent an email at 12:59 saying, I can't make it. Why she didn't text us, I don't know, but I didn't see the email until much later that evening.
I don't know if she has my number to text because I've never received a text from her, but I got an email from her also.
Well,
And
I have been communicating with her through text,
huh.
but maybe her phone was dead. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there's three
Either that or you're
workshops. Michael McCarty is doing one. Patty Christensen, right? Isn't she doing one?
oh, cool.
And then Adrian. Or wait, or is it Linda?
Yeah, Linda King Pruitt.
Yeah, Linda King Pruitt is doing one. Yeah. And
Well, that's good.
Chris and I sent in our registration, but I don't know if I'm going to have Well, I know I couldn't last the whole day. I have to take a nap every day. And I only have short spurts of energy and then I'm dead. I'm zombie.
I'm amazed you're here tonight.
Power of story.
Well,
Yes.
because of everything happening all at once, I'll be coming back from Bakersfield when this is going on because I'm doing a historical story thing up there. Um, and that's on Friday night. And then after lunch up there, I'm coming back because I have a concert to MC on Saturday evening in Pasadena. So
Right.
taking a detour to Claremont was not going to work.
Well, I hope it goes well.
Is it 9 to 4? That's what I wrote.
Yeah, basically.
I'll send out an email with the information. Because I want to promote it.
Another job for you to do.
That's all. I can sit at my computer, so I'm spending too much energy.
Sure.
I haven't registered, so what would I look for to find the link?
They don't have a website. So I did send you the information several weeks ago.
So I look for you, your email.
Yeah, look for my email. And I sent the flyer that has the information.
And you have to mail in your registration. They don't
Or you
do
can-
it online.
Well, you can, if you have Zelle, you can pay, that's how I pay for registration. But you can pay at the doors.
Yeah, it's $25 in advance and $30 at the door or some such. Thought I had the email right here, but I don't have any signals, so I can't get anything.
Yeah.
I will be there at 9.
Okay, well, I think I'm gonna turn off the recording. We finished this meeting a little short today, but excellent stories. Definitely worth hearing.